It will still make your skin crawl. After all, it is Halloween.
Next time what you
Our story begins on a night like any other,
do, never know.
where everyone's asleep in their beds, and all of a sudden, the stillness of the night is shattered by the scream of a little boy. The parents leap out of bed, run down the hall, go to his room, turn the light on, and look around. The boy is cowering under the covers. "What's the matter?" said the father. "It's the bugs," said the boy. "What bugs?" said the father. "Where?" "They're all over," said the boy. The father walked over to the bed, sat down on the edge, pulled the covers down slightly, looked into his son's eyes and said, "I don't see any bugs. Do you?" The boy looked around and said, "No." "Well then," said the father, "we've all had a good scare, so let's go back to sleep, okay?" The boy said, "Okay." The mother kissed the boy goodnight, and the father, when he got to the door, turned and said, "I'll be right down the hall if you need me, buddy. Good night." He turned out the light. The boy said, "Good night," but it wasn't a good night. The boy lay there in bed, his eyes wide open. He couldn't sleep. All he could think about were the bugs. It made his skin crawl. He lay there in bed, listening to the sound of his own breathing, feeling his body pulse with every beat of his heart. He didn't know what to do. He took it as long as he could. After what seemed like an eternity, he slipped out of bed, and he walked down the hall to his parents' room. He stood in the doorway, and he called out, "Mom? Dad?" There was no answer. He called again, "Mom? Dad?" And again, no answer. He called a third time, "Mom? Dad?" Still no answer. He stepped into the room, turned the light on. He looked at the bed. All he could see were the covers, and they seemed to be moving ever so slightly. He walked over to the bed. With his little hands, he grabbed the covers, started pulling them towards him. He stood on tiptoe, looking for any sign of his mother and father. But as he pulled the covers off the bed, all he could see were millions of shiny black bugs crawling all over each other. The boy closed his eyes, threw his head back, and screamed. But this was no ordinary scream. This was a scream that was so powerful, it ricocheted and reverberated off of every wall and surface in the house. This was a scream that was so powerful, it shook and rattled every window in the house. This was a scream that was so powerful that it actually woke the boy up. He sat up. He was in his own bed. The morning sunlight was streaming in by the nearby window. He felt safe in his own bed. It was all a dream. Or was it? "Mom? Dad?" he called out. No answer. "Mom? Dad?" he called again. And again, no answer. "Mom? Dad?" he called a third time. There was a silence. And then the soothing sound of the father. "What is it?" he said. The boy felt silly and embarrassed all of a sudden. He said, "What's for breakfast?" And he didn't even wait for an answer. He fell back down on the bed. He looked up at the ceiling and smiled. He now had a secret that was his and his alone. Perhaps someday, with special friends, under certain circumstances, he would share it. But until that day, the secret was his and his alone. He, and only he, knew the strange story, the horrible story, the terrible story, the weird, wacky, and wonderful stories of the bugs in the night. Happy Halloween. Yeah.